I've been thinking a lot lately about getting older. And I don't mean just getting older physically, although that's definitely part of it. I mean, the reality of what life looks like, when you're getting to my age in your 50s and you're starting to wonder, are we actually going to be okay? Because I think a lot of people my age quietly have these worries, but we just don't always talk about them. At the moment, one of my biggest concerns is work. Will I actually be able to get back into the workforce after I get my shoulder fixed? Will someone even want to hire me, in my 50s, after I've had so much time off work? And I think that's something a lot of older Australians worry about. Being over 50 and looking for work, where I live in Australia, I think one of the hardest things about being over 50 is that you start looking at the job market, right? And you start looking at it differently. You're not walking into it with the same confidence you had, when you were younger. When you were younger, people just give you a job because you were young, Even though you've got years of experience behind you and you've dealt with problems, and you know how to handle different situations, it's just still feels different. But one thing I do believe is that people over 50 still have a lot to offer. Like we're not finished, and we're not outdated. We're not past our use by date. People my age have a lot of experience. We've dealt with these challenges, and we know how to communicate better than anyone else. We know how to solve problems, we've done that all our lives. We know how to turn up and get things done. In fact, Gen X people are one of the hardest workers in the workforce. And I think sometimes that gets freaking forgotten, because getting older doesn't mean you stop being capable. It doesn't mean you stop wanting to contribute. It doesn't mean you stop wanting to be part of something. It's not just about wanting a job either. It's about knowing that you still have value, as you get older, and that you can still contribute, Then there's the worry about my husband, I worry about, he's still working, right? And I think about what happens if something changes, What if he loses his job like me? What if he gets injured at work like me, or he gets sick? Because being the age I am now, well, it kind of feels, quite frankly, scary. And even though me and my hubby are lucky enough to own our own unit, our duplex, life isn't free though. You still have bills. You have to pay housing insurance, council rates, and home repairs, which can really blow out your budget. And, just the usual stuff like your groceries, of course, your electricity. So yeah, all those things, all those little things just add up, right? Sometimes people actually say, oh, well, you own your own home. And yes, we're grateful for that. But owning your own home doesn't mean you don't have any financial pressure. And another thing I think about is the healthcare. Australia has always actually been a place where, we've been pretty lucky to have good healthcare, a good healthcare system. But lately it feels like the system is breaking, like it's under so much pressure. And the fact is that there are long waiting times for elective surgery, not emergency surgery. Actually, we've got a saying in Darwin where I live. If you're staff, people go, well, when in pain, get on a plane. But yeah, I'm pretty sure nearly every hospital in this country is at breaking point. And as I get older, right, I can't help but wonder, will the healthcare system actually still be there when I really need it? In fact, will the Australian pension even be around by the time hubby and I reach 67? Personally, I don't reckon there will be a pension. You know, when you're younger, you don't always think about these things, right? I mean, I did to a certain degree. But as you get to my age, you know, I'm 51, you start thinking more about your future. You start thinking about your health more, your finances and your security, you know, because we've still got some time to live, right? I've even started thinking about whether Australia is a place where my husband and I will be able to afford to live the rest of our life, you know. And don't get me wrong, I love Australia, I do. It's my home. But sometimes I look at places like Southeast Asia, for instance, where it's cheaper. Like everything costs, the cost of living is obviously much more cheaper. In fact, so many Australians are moving to places like Vietnam or Bali, Thailand, because their money is stretching, you know, that much further. And I don't think I'd actually be able to do it, but I can really understand why people are contemplating having their retirement in another country. And you know, at the end of the day, people our age, we're all searching for the same thing. We're actually all worrying about the same thing. You know, we just want to retire in peace, you know, and not live like shit for the rest of our lives. You know, we've worked hard. We've worked nearly all our lives, and it's like we should be able to enjoy a bit before we freaking depart the world, you know. And I suppose these worries are just a part of getting older. But you can't not unsee what's going on in the world right now and not worry how the heck you're going to afford to have a decent retirement. Anyways, am I the only one who feels this way? I highly doubt it. I'd love to know what you think, and hey, if you've watched the video this far, well, thanks for being here. And if you liked the video, please leave a like, drop a comment. I love hearing what you guys think. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.